Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Finland once again, and we're going to have a look at yet another of the beers that arrived in Riku box number 2. So first and foremost, a massive shout out and thank you to Riku Sanaxanaho, my Finnish beer mule who lives in Oulu in the northwest of the country, and it's thanks to him that you guys are enjoying a steady stream of Finnish reviews here on the channel just now, and I'm sure we'll continue this for many years. But he's picked out some really nice beers for me. He seems to have his own kind of beer mule network within Finland, and so he's able to get me some really great stuff actually. So Riku, a huge thank you to you once again for making this review and the other Finnish ones possible, and I sincerely hope that you guys watching in Finland and elsewhere are enjoying these ones, because Finnish beer has been very difficult to get for quite a long time, but a few breweries are now starting to get out there a little bit, which is great, and long may that continue. But yeah, for this review then, we are going to go to the south of Finland once again. We're going to go to a little place called Tuusula, which is just to the north of Helsinki, although these guys are going to move soon to a new place called Viki, which is one of the eastern suburbs of Helsinki actually, and we're returning to a brewery that has featured on the channel a good number of times before now. So for this one then, we are going to have a look at another beer from Coolhead Brew. This beer is called Paradise Smoosh. It comes in at 5% ABV, and it's another big kind of fruity, juicy sour. This one has passion fruit and pink guava puree in it, so I think it should be really quite nice. The last beer that we reviewed from these guys was a member of their Goza Fresca range, and I think that was Pink Guava Equinaut, if I remember rightly. So yeah, that was a really nice beer, so fingers crossed this one carries on in the same vein, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So yeah, let's see how we get on then. Really curious to see what this beer has in store for us. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Coolhead Brew before, and you will see another few videos added to that in the next little while, because I've got one more sour to look at from them and also an Imperial Stout, so they'll appear when they appear. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Finnish reviews that I've done for you, and that's being added to regularly at the moment because I've still got quite a few of the Riku beers left to go through. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Coolhead Brew then, on to my brewery notes. So as I've mentioned to you already, Coolhead Brew are based in Tuusula at the moment, which is about 30 kilometres to the north of Helsinki, in the south of Finland, and the company was founded back in 2014 by Kleber Gonçalves, who is originally from Brazil. But Kleber worked in the technology sector for a number of years, and this took him to work in England and then to Finland, where he still is today, obviously. But he started planning the brewery in 2013, and then he officially established the company the following year in 2014. But they managed to get the production up and running in about February 2016, and they've just been gradually building up the capacity of this brewery that they have ever since. But today they employ around 8 people, and they're brewing around 180,000 litres of beer per year. And one of the things in Finland is that when it comes to the taxation of small alcohol producers like this, the taxation is banded. So what you'll find is that breweries will tend to expand to a certain size, and then they'll stop, and then, you know, some of them will decide to go up to the next level and expand a little bit. But it seems that the Finnish government have been progressively relaxing the laws to allow microbreweries to, and you know, like small distillers and things like that to flourish. So it's good to see that the Finnish government are kind of being proactive in this, because for a long time it was very difficult for you know, alcohol producing companies in Finland to get going. But one of the really exciting developments with this brewery in recent times is that in early 2021, this year, they announced that they were going to move to a new premises in Viki, which is in eastern Helsinki. But this place that they have is a former tropical garden called Gardenia, and it's going to open to the public in stages from what I understand. It's going to have a tap room, a restaurant, and then they've got loads of space to do other things in there as well. There's a video actually on the Coolhead Brew YouTube channel that you can check out. So if you put Coolhead Brew just into YouTube, you will see this video. I think it's about 3 minutes long, and it takes you on a walkthrough of this whole place that they've got. But I think that's going to be very, very cool. And fingers crossed, when I do make it over to Finland, we can go and check that out, and it will hopefully be up and running. But it'd be awesome to organise a kind of meet the brewery segment with Kleber as well. That would be very, very cool. But these guys basically brew a lot of fruit beers and IPAs, and they've also been doing some barrel aging in recent times. Essentially, this brewery are bringing the sort of Brazilian style of brewing into Europe, which is pretty cool, because I think I can't think of any other brewery that are doing this. But basically, the way it goes in Brazil, as you might have seen from some of my Brazilian beer reviews that I've done recently, is that they like to put lots of random fruits and things like that into their beers, and it works out really nicely, I have to say. I've been very impressed with the Brazilian beers that I've had so far. They're only just starting to make their way across to Europe, but again, long may that continue. But yeah, Coolhead are bringing that into Europe, and as of March 2021, these guys have produced around 200 different kinds of beer, and they're starting to get out there across the European continent a little bit. I think the Dutch guys have reviewed some of these, so I think you can get some of these beers through the likes of Beer Dome and Beerwolf and things like that in the Netherlands. They really have some great web shops down there, and of course they ship throughout the whole of the EU. I'm not sure if some of the English guys have been able to get these actually, but yeah. If you do come across some Coolhead stuff, I would highly recommend that you check them out. Very good in the New England hazies, good with these kind of fruity sours as well, and I'm curious to see what the Imperial Stout is going to have in store for us a little bit later on. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Coolhead Brew for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So just let you have a little quick look at the can. Quite simple artwork on this one, as you quite often get from Coolhead. Just really nice and kind of tasteful graphics, if you like. I guess we can see that, but you can see at the top of the can there is the Coolhead symbol, and there you can see the Coolhead symbol as well. And this is supposed to be Kleber, because for a long time he had, you know, fairly short, kind of fluffy afro-like hair, but I think these days he's got dreadlocks. At least that's what it was on that new Gardenia video on YouTube, their YouTube channel. But yeah, this is meant to be Kleber from what I understand. But yeah, it says on the side here, a double fruited Nordic sour, 5% ABV, double fruited Nordic sour brewed with heaps of passion fruit and pink guava purees, soured with our housed mixed culture using our Nordic sour method. Drink fresh, store cold and enjoy. So yeah, this should be really nice. From what Riku told me, I think this beer cost about €4 or €5 to buy. Remember, Finland is the most expensive country that uses the euro, so you will pay a little bit more for Finnish beers, but the quality of stuff is pretty good actually, so nothing wrong with that. But yeah, 330ml can, 5% fruity sour beer. So let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. So yeah, let's go for it then. I'm very curious about this. You can smell that already as soon as you open this one up. It comes across. You just get that lovely big juicy fruitiness out of the beer. That looks great. Looks absolutely fabulous. So yeah, let's just check that this is in a nice place, and then my OCD can be happy. And there we are. So just before the head disappears, you can see that this poured with about a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say, perfect white head there. It's maybe got a little bit of a creamy tinge to it, in fairness. It's a little bit hard to decide, but you can see that head is just fading away to be a really, really thin foamy layer. It's going to leave a nice big foamy ring around the edge of the glass, but it's certainly creeping across the top and becoming quite nice and smooth. But yeah, it certainly looks very, very nice. In terms of colour of this one, I would say that this one looks a little bit like a sort of mixed tropical fruit juice. I would say it's I always like comparing these kind of beers to the different fruit juices, because that's really just what their appearance reminds me of. So this one looks as if it's just like a mixed tropical fruit juice, but definitely on the lighter side of the scale when it comes to that. Just a lovely colour, maybe like a peach juice actually, come to think of it. So yeah, that's quite interesting for sure. But yeah, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. But I mean, overall, it does look pretty nice. And if I stick my fingers behind the glass, you can see the degree of opacity, the degree of haziness that we have out of this one. So yeah, certainly looks very, very nice. Does this one, I'm just wondering, what does this one have in the malt base? So it says it's oats that's in this one. Is there a mention of wheat? No, just oats. So yeah, this one I think will be one of these big kind of smooth sort of creamy sours, if you like. I think it's more likely to be a kind of soft, tropical, creamy type sour, this one. But yeah, the oats will be the thing that's giving you the haze in this one. Remember, when it comes to beer, the colour of your beer is dependent on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. Two, the length of your wort boil. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, thus you get a darker colour of beer. But in things like sour beers, you're going to have adjuncts and any barrel aging playing a role in this as well. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think this one will mainly be down to some of the fruits. A little bit the tinge that the beer has will be down to the fruits, but the more yellowy colour, I guess, will be down to a mix of both the fruits and the kind of malt base actually. But it certainly looks nice. For a 5%, the level of haze on it is pretty impressive, and it's usually, when it comes to haze, it's usually your oats and your yeast, and I guess the fruits will play a little bit of a role in determining the level of haze in the beer as well. But it certainly looks nice. It looks similar to the other sours that we've had in the past from Coolhead Brew. So yeah, nothing overly surprising about its appearance. Let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one then. So yeah, let's go for it with the aroma. That does smell very nice. It does smell good. Yeah, I mean, straight away with this one, it's really interesting. The fruits are the first things that jump out at you, but let's go to the fruits at the end of this. I always like to start with the malty side of things. As you would kind of expect, you can smell a little bit of that kind of smooth, creamy, oaty base to the beer. It does have a degree of breadiness to it, which is quite interesting. What you'll often find with these sour beers is a lot of them have very kind of straight shooting aromas. I don't find these big kind of modern fruity sours to be all that complex in terms of aroma and flavour profile, but they just taste so nice. It's like these beers really show you that sometimes simplicity is the best route to take. But yeah, with this one you can smell a nice little bit of a kind of pale white bready base to the beer, which I think is very, very nice. And you do get a nice kind of smooth, you can smell that smooth oatiness in it as well. So the more that you smell of this beer, the oats become almost a little bit powdery and give you a little bit of that sweet sort of thing that you can get out of them. But at the same time, this beer really does give you a little bit of a kind of yogurty type impression to it. Yeah. But there is a real dryness in this one as well. You can smell that. It's something out of the malty base, but I think it's a mix of one of the fruits as well that's really giving you just a little bit of a kind of dry quality in there. So yeah, as I say, a little bit of a soft white bready base, but there is a degree of crispness to that. Then you get the smooth kind of oaty characteristics, and a bit, and like right in the centre of the nose, you get you get a little bit of that kind of yogurty. That sort of yogurty thing that you can sometimes get out of these big fruity sour beers. So yeah, it's kind of straightforward. It's quite similar to what we've had from the other sours from this brewery before. So yeah, nothing really surprising about that, but it does smell really good, as I said. In terms of hoppy kind of characters in this one, as I always say, with a lot of these Nordic sours, you don't tend to have hops in them. Now, I've mentioned before that there's a brewery back home in Scotland called Vault City. They actually put hops in their sour beers, and I think it just adds a little bit more depth to the flavour of the beer, but you do get a nice little bit of kind of grassiness and things out of beers like this. Even though they don't have hops in them, so it's quite strange. You do get a little bit of this kind of placebo effect going on with them. So for me, this beer does actually have a little bit of grassiness to it and maybe a slight hint of floral quality, even though it doesn't have hops in it. You do pick up a little bit of that in this beer. But beyond those two elements that we've mentioned, the sort of malty backbone and the little bit of the green component, it really is quite it's really nice and juicy and fruity. So yeah, on the fruity side of things, you can smell the slightly more pungent passion fruit kind of sitting in behind, but the beer really gets a good little bit of sharpness from the pink guava. I've always found that guava has like it's got a really green sort of smell to it, if that makes sense. I don't really know how else to describe guava. It's a little bit like mango, but just a little bit kind of greener, if that makes sense. And the pink guava tends to have a little bit more of a kind of sharpness to it as well. So you've got a bit of that juicy sharpness on the very tip of the nose from the pink guava. You can smell the sort of green qualities coming in underneath that, and it gives you a little bit of that kind of mangoish type quality that you get from it. Guava's a really interesting fruit. I need to see about getting some guava juice at the supermarket. I keep forgetting to look for it, but the way that I learned about different fruit flavours was to try different fruit juices. And so yeah, I need to try and see if I can find a guava juice. Actually, I'll need to look for that and see how we can go with that one. But yeah, you get a little bit of a kind of pungenty passion fruit in behind, but you do get a few other fruits coming out of this beer, such as like a little bit of apricot and a little bit of mango and stuff like that. You always get that with these sour beers, that you'll pick up a few other kind of fruit subtleties other than the fruits that are actually added into the beer. But the aroma of this one, once again, is very, very nice, and this is what Coolhead do very, very well. So definitely take a little bit of time to kind of ponder that aroma over, because it is very, very nice. And yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. So this one is the Paradise Smoosh, a 5% Nordic sour as they're calling it, but basically a fruity, modern fruity sour beer from Coolhead Brew, currently in Tuusula, soon to move to Viki in the east of Helsinki in Finland. Big thank you to Riku once again for making this possible. Slange, skål, kipis, let's go for it. Oh yeah, tell you something, that beer does have quite a pungency to it when you take it in. That's very, very nice. And again, it's this one, I have to say, the last one that we had, the Goza Fresca, straight away on the palate, I remember that one. It did have a wee bit of an impact, but not quite as powerful as this. This beer is one of the ones, I think, that you need to have a few sips of before you kind of pass judgment on it. But I mean, this was the thing, when I first tried sours I didn't like them at all, and in recent times they've really grown on me. I think the key to liking sours for me was Rodenbach. When I first tried Rodenbach, I thought it was beautiful, and that really opened the door for sours for me, along with trying some of the lambic beers that was very, very kindly sent by Chris Contreras down in Belgium. He sent me a few Dry Fontaines and Cantillons, and that really opened the door for me with the sour beers, along with the Rodenbach. So yeah, now I love having different sour beers. Yeah, this again is very, very nice. If you've had sour beers from this brewery, it is very much kind of in keeping with the vibe that they have. Well, it's very much in keeping with the ones we've had before. But yeah, I really like this one. It's definitely got a little bit more kind of sharpness to it, and it does feel a little bit lighter as well, actually, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, this one, I'll say straight away, this gets a thumbs up from me. I do like this. This is going to be a little bit of a sipper, I think, though. Just it feels a little bit more kind of potent than I remember the other ones being, but nothing wrong with that. The other one, of course, did have hop in it. I think it was Pink Guava Equinox, if I remember rightly, the Goza Fresca. So yeah, this one is a bit more of just, it is more concentrating on the fruit rather than having the hops to kind of balance it out. But yeah, I like this one. So again, thank you, Riku, for picking this one out for me. He always picks me out some really good beers. What we do is during the year we gather, big heavy stuff, and then I basically tell him when I'm ready to take the box, and at that point he'll buy me a few sours and IPAs and stuff to put in, the stuff that needs to be drunk more fresh, if you like. So yeah, this was another good choice for him. So yeah, let's break this down then. So straight away across the middle of your palate, you've got that nice smooth kind of, you can feel a bit of that sort of pale malty bready kind of note just forming the backbone of this beer. So yeah, you get that. On top of that though, you get a nice, you can feel a little bit of the oaty character coming out of this one. The malt base, as I was kind of saying, as I was saying, and as the aroma kind of indicated, is pretty damn straight shooting. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind about that. This is a very straight shooting beer, and it's very akin to the other sours that I've had from this brewery in the past. So yeah, malt base of pale malt, you can feel the kind of oaty notes on top of that, giving you a little bit of that almost, it's got a little bit of an almost kind of powdery dryness to it, but you can feel that sort of sweetness that you get from oats kind of coming out of the way as well. But on the front half of that middle third of your palate, you do get a little touch of a kind of yogurty type vibe coming out of the beer as well. So I do like how that pieces together in this one, definitely. But yeah, it's a very straight up malt base, this one. If you go to the border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you can feel that it almost has a little bit of a slight doughiness that just builds up, and you get a little bit of a kind of bread crusty kind of thing going on with it as well. Then on the back at the third of your palate, it's got a little bit more of a kind of grainy, bready sort of thing, which is quite interesting. So yeah, I really like how that side of the beer goes together as well. A lot of the time with these fruity sours, it is a very simple malt base, and this one sticks to that sort of prerequisite, if you like. So yeah, nothing surprising about the malt base in this one, and I think nothing more to report, to be honest. So yeah, on the sort of hoppy part of your palate, on the edge of your tongue, in the back corners of the palate, I do get a little touch of earthiness, and beyond that, it does have an almost very slightly herbal sort of quality as you move forward. On the front corners of the palate, there's a teeny little bit of a sort of floral kind of thing in there, but I've got a feeling that these might be sort of placebo type flavours. As I say, they're sort of, you kind of expect them to be there, so perhaps you kind of pick them up a little bit, but the sides of your palate are very smooth, simply because the beer doesn't have doesn't really have kind of hoppiness to it. But yeah, and around the front curve of the tongue, it does feel a little bit sort of grassy and zesty almost, which I do kind of quite like. And then on that front third of the palate, that's where you get all the fruity notes coming out of the beer. So yeah, the way everything goes together in this one really does work. Yeah. But yeah, let's talk about the main thing in this beer, the fruity notes. So as I've said in previous reviews, what I look for in a good sour beer is a good transition. Like whenever you drink a sour beer, it comes in sharp, but then you're looking for it to kind of smoothen out and juicen up nicely. That's for me what makes a good sour beer. This one, as I said earlier, has quite an impact when you take it in. It is a little bit more sharp and slightly puckering when you first take the beer in. So bear that in mind. So for me, I think it's the guava, the pink guava, that's giving you a lot of the pungency in this beer. Definitely. So when you take it in, it comes in right behind the front curve of your tongue, and it gives you a wee bit of sharpness. Then it just juicens up a little bit. It just kind of spreads further back on that front third of your palate, and then the whole beer just kind of mellows out a little bit. So yeah, on that border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, you can feel a little bit of a thickening up. It gives you a little bit of a doughy character. Then there's a wee bit of a kind of bread crusty type thing. You do get a little bit of that sort of grainy bread crusty type vibe coming out of the beer. But yeah, you've got a nice underneath the fruity notes in this beer, you do get a little bit of the oatiness coming into play again. So that's the backbone of your fruity part of the beer. This one, of course, doesn't have hops in it. And what you would usually get on the front third of your palate is the oily bubble where the fruity esters come out of the beer. In this case, it's fruit that's added into the beer. So yeah, for me, that middle front, the backbone of that front third of your palate, you get the sort of oaty base, you get a little bit of an almost apricot-y flavour kind of sitting there, and maybe a little hint of mango towards the back of the, kind of just sitting on top of that. But at the back of that front third of your palate, I think that's where a little bit of the passion fruity pungency comes out of it. But the passion fruit has a real sort of softness in this beer, and I think that's the one that's taken up most of that kind of front third of your palate, if you like. But as you reach the front edge of the tongue, that's when you start to get the guava notes and the sharpness out of the guava, I would say. Although remember, guava as a fruit tends to be quite soft, so I think it does, the more that you drink of this, I think that the guava starts to push into the palate a little bit from the very tip of your tongue. But yeah, you've got that sharp guava kind of note there, and then you get the sort of green mango-y kind of notes coming out from it too. And whenever you add fruit into beer as an adjunct, what it always does is it comes out on the very edge of the palate, so you can feel some of that kind of green sharpness, if you like, from the guava just around, spreading around the kind of front edges of your tongue. It goes all the way around the front curve and then just to about the kind of front corners of the palate. So yeah, the way the fruitiness comes out in this beer, I think is it's really very nice as well. So yeah, I mean, this beer doesn't really do anything unexpected if you compare it to other Coolhead beers. And when you just think about what exactly it is, it's a Nordic, it's a Nordic sour. It's a big fruity sour. It gives you what you'd expect, but again, it's really nicely executed. And these days, there's so many breweries on the market that you can't really ask for much more. So yeah, I have to say, just thumbs up to Coolhead for this one. Another solid sour beer. And as I say, this is kind of akin to what you would get in some Brazilian breweries. Some of the Brazilian fruity sours that I've had have been really nice. I mean, for example, the Cervejaria Juan Caloto, you can go and check out that review in my Brazilian playlist, and this one isn't a million miles away from that, come to think of it. So yeah, this is a really interesting approach, and there's various breweries throughout Norway, Sweden, Denmark and things that are doing these kind of beers as well. So Nordic Sour is quite an interesting sort of sub-style that's coming out. So yeah, let's round off this review with a mouthfeel then. What can we say about that? I mean, I think this beer is towards the kind of top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation, it's very smooth in this one. This beer actually does have a kind of thickness to it, a kind of thick creaminess, but when it's an oat-centric sour like this, that's not overly surprising, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's got a bit of thickness to it, a bit of a kind of thick creamy note to it, but also a wee bit of kind of slickness for sure. So yeah, I like how that goes together. But on the hoppy, as I say, on the hoppy kind of bitter side of things, not a lot to report on that. This, I mean, technically speaking, this beer's probably got 0 IBUs to it, but in reality it will have like 5 or 10 or at most, something like that. So yeah, there's a little bit of that going on with this one. But yeah, a little bit of a puckering note, as I say, when you take it in. It's got a little bit of impact, but the fruits really mellow out and give you a nice kind of smoothness and juiciness. So yeah, I really like how this beer goes about its business. So another solid one from Coolhead, the Paradise Smoosh, 5% with passion fruit and pink guava in it. Yeah, big thumbs up to Coolhead, as I say, and thank you to Riku for picking this one out for me. So yeah, I think we can leave it there for this one. This is a really nice beer. It's very smooth in its malt base, lovely little bit of sharpness to it, juicy fruits, and then smoothness all the way and a little bit of creaminess. So yeah, let's leave it there. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Coolhead Brew. I'm sure I'll return to these guys at some point soon. I do have 2 more beers from Riku Box number 2 that we'll review. You'll probably see the other sour beer soon, and I'm not sure when you'll see the Imperial Stout, because that can sit for quite a while. But yeah, definitely try out some of these big fruity sour beers from Coolhead. They're doing some awesome stuff down there. As I said earlier, check out my social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Coolhead, and do give me any other Finnish brewery recommendations that you might have, and then we can pass those on to Riku and see what we can do. But yeah, the Paradise Smoosh, 5% fruity sour with passion fruit and pink guava from Coolhead, currently in Tuusula to the north of Helsinki, soon to be Viki in the eastern part of Helsinki city. So yeah, Slange, School, thank you for watching, Kiitos and Kiipis. See you in the next review.